Hey Jackers, it's Jack. Today is a bit of a different video. With NightReign around the corner, I wanted to make a list of bosses I really wanted to see in the game. NightReign will have some bosses from Dark Souls. The ones we know so far are the Centipede Demon, Gundyr Freya, and the Nameless King. I highly doubt FromSoft will add any bosses from Demon's Souls, Bloodborne in the game due to probable licensing or something like that. And I also don't think Sekiro will get any representation, just because Sekiro plays very differently from the traditional Soulsborne game. Kinda sucks, as I would have loved to fight the Demon of Hatred in a more traditional Soulsborne combat style, or even Sword Saint Ishin for that matter. Can't really talk about Demon's Souls or Bloodborne as I've never played both of them, since they're PlayStation exclusives. Really hope they'll come over to PC someday, as I don't really feel like shelling a ton of money just to play these two games. I'll also limit DLC bosses to one, because if I didn't, the list would mainly be DLC bosses. So here's a list of 3 bosses from each of the Dark Souls games that I would like to see maybe be added in NightReign. To start off the list, I am adding one of my, if not my favorite boss of Dark Souls 1, Ornstein and Smough. I really love these two dudes, and I think they could be pretty fun in NightReign. Although it does make me think how the transition to Super Ornstein or Super Smough would go. Is it going to be a cutscene? Or will the lone survivor do an animation where it powers up to its super stage? Or is it going to be just regular Ornstein and Smough? Let's just hope it's not the last option. The Gaping Dragon. An okay boss, although not a favorite of mine. Some parts of the dragon will need to be reworked though. An example would be its vomit attack. Since NightReign doesn't have durability, the vomit attack should inflict debuffs, or maybe just do some damage. All in all, I think the Gaping Dragon would be a pretty neat fit in NightReign. And to end off the Dark Souls 1 boss choice, I'll have to give it to Knight Artorias. It would be such a missed opportunity to add him, since his armor can be equipped by the Walder class. Another way to spice things up is to maybe add Sif to his fights. However, that would probably not work, as both bosses aren't programmed to work that way, as unfortunate as it is. But who knows? Maybe. In NightReign's network test, Morgoths could invade you at a random moment, and the Pursuer could be a better invasion boss than Morgoth. It's in his name, he pursues. I wouldn't even be mad if he still had his wonky grab hitbox. Or, you know what, never mind, hope all hitboxes are fixed. Looking Glass Knight could be a way for people to do some PvP. I've seen many people being kinda disappointed that NightReign doesn't have PvP. Although this might not be very fun for the invaders, as they might die pretty quickly when 3 coked up Nightfarers rush towards them. Looking Glass Knight would be a pretty nice boss when there's stormy or rainy weather. Fume Knight. What else do you want me to say? Cool knight, big ass sword, and he's really fun too. This was a really hard choice to make, since I was also on the fence about putting the Burnt Ivory King in its place. Anyways, back to Fume Knight. I think he's an amazing boss and would make for a great night boss. Starting off the Dark Souls 3 list with my favorite boss in the base game, the Abyss Watchers. They would make for an amazing night boss, where they get up off the ground and have the same behavior as in Dark Souls 3, where a second hostile watcher gets up and a third. A second stage could work as per usual. The fight could be a collective health bar, kind of like the 4 kings from Dark Souls 1. I'd honestly prefer it if it was like how it is in Dark Souls 3, but who knows? Maybe a collective health bar might be a fun change? I'd consider it criminal if I didn't include Pontiff Sullivan, another peak boss and the original final boss of Dark Souls 3 before the idea got scrapped. Look it up, it's pretty interesting. Back to Sullivan though. In one of the trailers for NightReign you could see Estelle drop in a church, chapel of some kind, and this would work very well for Sullivan. Sullivan's second stage should make sure the Shadow and Pontiff attack the same person. I've played some of the seamless co-op mods with my friends, and some monsters or bosses tend to switch targets abruptly, throwing everyone off, and this would kind of ruin Sullivan's flow in my eyes, since Sullivan mimics his Shadow clone. The DLC pick was the hardest to make for Dark Souls 3. There's a ton of amazing bosses in Dark Souls 3's DLCs. Sister Friede, Demon Prince, Midir, Slave Knight Gale, Half-Life, just kidding. I decided to go for the Demon Prince, kind of for the same reason as Ornstein and Smo, since depending on which one you kill first determines what his second stage will be, and I think that's a really fun feature for a boss to have. That was my list of bosses I'd like to see get a spotlight in NightReign. What's your boss wishlist? Let me know, and we can engage in some jolly discussions. And that was it. I'm off. Bye.